In today's episode, we're diving deep into the 2024 presidential election forecast, and it looks like Donald Trump has hit a stunning 62 chance of winning, which is his highest odds so far in this race against Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, this is a big deal for a few reasons, but most importantly, it shows that Trump's momentum has reached its peak, especially since Harris entered the race. We've been watching the betting markets and polls, and the data is showing us a consistent upward trend in favor of Trump. Meanwhile, Harris is facing some of the worst odds she's seen since she officially became the Democratic nominee. Today, we're going to break down the latest polls, dig into state-by-state predictions, and take a close look at how these key battleground states are shaping up. We'll get into what these trends mean for both candidates as we edge closer to Election Day and why these numbers might be more significant than they appear at first glance. Let's start by talking about the Midwest, a region that has historically been a pivotal battleground in national elections. Two states that stand out here are Iowa and Ohio, both of which have been trending toward the GOP in recent years. In fact, Trump's odds of winning both of these states are an impressive 94, which is a clear indication that they've solidified their position as Republican strongholds. This is a huge shift from a few election cycles ago when both Iowa and Ohio were considered true battlegrounds. Trump's first major victory in these states came in 2016 when he flipped them from blue to red. In 2020, he repeated that feat, winning both by comfortable margins. Now, in 2024, it's expected that Trump will continue to dominate in Iowa and Ohio. The consistent polling and high betting odds reinforce the idea that these states are no longer competitive for Democrats, and barring any major surprises, Trump should carry them easily for the third consecutive time. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Moving down to the Sun Belt, the dynamics are even more intriguing. Take Texas, for example. For years, people have been speculating that Texas might be on the verge of turning purple due to its rapidly changing demographics. There's been talk about how the state's influx of younger, more diverse voters might eventually flip Texas to Democrats. But in this election cycle, those hopes are looking more distant than ever. Trump's current odds of winning Texas are also at 90-40, which is almost a sure thing, even though his margin of victory in Texas shrunk between 2016 and 2020 from 9 points to about 5. Is expected to win more comfortably this time around. The betting market suggests that Trump might even surpass his 2020 margin and potentially win by double digits. This is significant because Texas carries a hefty number of electoral votes, and winning here by a large margin would provide a substantial cushion for Trump. While the Senate race between Ted Cruz and Democratic challenger Colin Reed is gaining a lot of attention, it's unlikely to have much of an impact on the presidential race. Texas, it seems, is going to stay red in 2024, and that could spell trouble for Democrats looking to make inroads in future elections. Then there's Florida, another crucial state in this race. Florida has a long history of being a battleground state that often comes down to the wire. In 2016, Trump narrowly won Florida by just 1, and in 2020, he managed to expand his margin to over 3 points. Now, in 2024, Trump's odds of winning Florida are sitting at a remarkable 94. What's even more striking is that the gap between Trump and Harris is expected to widen even further, with some projections suggesting Trump could win by as much as 7 to 10 points. Florida has been shifting to the right in recent years, and Trump has been capitalizing on that trend. A big factor in this shift has been the increase in support from Latino voters, particularly Cuban Americans in South Florida, who have been leaning more Republican. If Trump can solidify his gains in Florida and win by a wide margin, it could be a game changer, not just for this election, but for future races as well. Florida has historically been a toss-up, but Trump's performance here in 2024 could signal that it's moving more firmly into the Republican column. So let's head north to Alaska, where Trump is also expected to win with ease. Alaska doesn't get as much attention as some of the larger states, but it's still an important part of the electoral puzzle. Trump's odds in Alaska are at 94-0, and while the state only offers 3 electoral votes, it's still crucial to lock down every state possible. Alaska has been a reliably Republican state for decades, and Trump's support there is strong. There's little doubt that he'll take Alaska without much trouble, which helps add to his electoral total. Now let's take a look at Kamala Harris's chances in some of the states where she's expected to perform well. While Trump is building momentum in key battleground states, Harris still has strong support in certain areas, particularly in the Southwest and the Northeast. One state where Harris is favored is New Mexico. She's currently projected to win New Mexico with a 91 chance. And that's largely because New Mexico has leaned Democratic in recent elections. Joe Biden won the state by 11 points in 2020. And while there's been some shifting in voter demographics, especially among Hispanic voters, New Mexico is expected to stay blue for now. Minnesota is another state where Harris has a solid chance of winning, thanks in part to her decision to choose Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. Minnesota has consistently voted Democratic in presidential elections since 1972, and Harris is likely to continue that trend. However, it's worth noting that the race in Minnesota has tightened more than expected, with Trump's odds of winning the state reaching as high as 44 at one point. Harris's polling lead has shrunk to just under 4 points, making it a closer race than Biden's 7-point victory in 2020. Still, Minnesota is expected to remain in the Democratic column, though the margin might be narrower than what we've seen in previous elections. Harris is also expected to win in Maine and New Hampshire, two states in the Northeast where Democrats have historically performed well. In Maine, Harris has an 87% chance of winning, while in New Hampshire, her odds are 85%. These states have become a bit more competitive in recent months, with Trump gaining some ground, but Harris is still a favorite in both. Additionally, Harris is expected to carry Virginia, although the race there has tightened considerably. She currently holds an 85% chance of winning the state, but Trump has made significant inroads, making it a closer race than many expected. Virginia has been trending Democratic in recent years, but Trump's competitiveness here is something Democrats should be keeping an eye on. Now, let's talk about the states that are truly up for grabs, the swing states. Arizona is one of the most critical battlegrounds in this election. Trump lost Arizona in 2020 by a narrow margin, but in 2024, he's favored to win it back with a 71% chance of victory. Polls show Trump with a slim lead of 1 point second. Arizona could be one of the deciding factors in this election. Georgia is another key state where Trump is favored to regain ground after losing it in 2020 by just 12,000 votes. His odds in Georgia are at 70, and he's leading by 1.8 in recent polls. Both Arizona and Georgia are crucial to Trump's path to victory, and winning them back will be essential if he wants to reclaim the White House. In North Carolina, Trump is also leading, though his odds are slightly lower due to challenges facing Republican gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson. Nevertheless, Trump is projected to carry North Carolina with a 70% chance of victory. Pennsylvania, one of the most critical swing states in the country, is also leaning toward Trump. He holds a 61% chance of winning, and the latest polls show him with a narrow lead. Pennsylvania could very well be the state that decides the entire election, making it one of the most closely watched battlegrounds. Trump is also favored in Michigan and Wisconsin, two other key battlegrounds. His odds in Michigan are at 57, while Wisconsin, they're at 56. Both of these Midwestern states are critical to Trump's strategy, and his improved polling numbers suggest that he's making significant gains in these areas. If Trump can flip these states, it would drastically improve his chances of winning the election. Lastly, we have Nevada, a state that hasn't voted for a Republican presidential candidate since 2004. However, Trump's odds of winning Nevada are currently at 56, indicating that he has a real shot at flipping the state in 2024. Nevada's relatively small number of electoral votes might not seem like a game changer, but every state counts when the race is this close. So what do these projections mean for the overall election outcome? Right now, the betting markets are forecasting a decisive victory for Trump. According to the latest data, Trump is on track to win 312 electoral votes to Harris's 226, which would be a landslide by modern standards. This would be the largest margin of victory in a presidential election since 2012, and it would mark a dramatic shift in the political landscape. As always, things could change in the final weeks of the campaign, but as it stands, Trump is in a strong position to win the presidency in 2024. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to comment, and subscribe for more updates on the 2024 election.